Balls Deep.
Welcome to Balls Deep, a humorous yet informative medical show with a mission of optimizing your performance in the bedroom, the bathroom, and the boardroom. I'm your host, Dr. Joe Pazona, a board-certified urologist and CEO of Pazona MD. We hope you enjoy. Now, let's jump right in. Stream team, Dr. Joe Pazona, welcome to another episode of Balls Deep. I am here with Kat Williams. Kat, I got a question for you today.
Okay.
I brought home a cake from the office that was a leftover, and it seems to be gone.
What?
Yeah, like a 2/3 of a birthday cake, and
Don't worry about it.
don't see it anymore.
Don't worry about it. Doesn't have anything to do with you. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. It was good.
Clearly, not everybody is following the wellness tips of the content here on Balls
following
Deep.
a lot of wellness tips, but you know what? Some of us need cake to live. So, don't worry about it.
Well, you do work out a lot, and you look great. So,
Thanks.
So
The
whatever
cake,
you're doing,
the cake is gone. The cake is gone.
whatever
That's the
you're
end
doing
of
is
that.
working. So.
Let's go back to kidney stones.
Yeah, let's continue conversation.
I think so. We got started on this last time, and I think we needed to get more in depth and talk a bit more about them and how to prevent them.
Yes.
So,
Yes, there's too many, as I call them, DIY options out there, and people relying on Dr. Google, who, he or she's got some good ideas every now and then, but way too many, rabbit holes on Reddit threads going on to
maybe not the best.
Exactly. So, but big fan of the Reddit crowd. So keep up the support. But with that, why don't we do a deep medical dive in today's episode we like to call
Balls Deep.
All right.
Okay, let's get into it. Here's the main question everybody wants to know. How do we prevent kidney stones?
All right.
Hit us.
So here's the big secret about preventing kidney stones. In fact, I'll give you the 3 big secrets.
Okay.
You ready?
Oh, I'm ready.
Water, water, and water.
Okay, that was 3 of the same thing.
Because it's that important.
Okay.
And this is where simple beats complex 7 days a week. And I know that people are like, really, dude? Like, we're listening to a urologist of 20 years to tell me to drink more water? And
Yep.
the answer is yes. Again, if we go back to the pathophysiology, fancy doctor term for why does bad stuff happen in our body, it's simply not enough fluid, too many minerals. And there's only so much you can do on the mineral side of things, especially if your kidneys are just leaking out too much calcium, or because you are not producing enough citrate, some things we'll get into. The one thing you can control is how much water goes in your body. And other than people with really severe heart disease and kidney failure, certainly if you've got medical illnesses where your doctor's like, hey, dude, you can't drink more than 60 ounces of water a day, this is not pertaining to you. But for the rest of us, it's a simple thing we can do. And this is usually where I've got a patient in my office who starts negotiating. Well, what about, and so why don't we go through some beverages? So let's do a little impromptu rapid fire.
Oh,
Kat.
I'm on the spot. Okay.
So we didn't plan for this.
All right. We did not plan for this.
So you are going to throw to me a beverage, and
Okay.
I'm going to either go yes, no, or maybe in terms of, is it a good substitute for water?
Okay.
Is that
I've
fair?
got this.
Okay.
I'm ready. Coke.
No.
You sure? Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
And so let's go real briefly into each one, why we say yes or no. So soda has several factors that lead to kidney stones. So the first is it's acidic. So there actually have been reports of, especially like teenagers, teenage girls in particular, who were drinking so much soda that they became osteopenic or osteoporotic, meaning their bones got weak. So
As a teenager.
Wow, from too much
it's a
soda.
lot of Coke.
So how does that happen? Well, acid can dissolve stuff, right? Remember again from chemistry. What are our bones made of? Calcium. What leads to kidney stones? Calcium. So if you do things that break down your bones, you will get more kidney stones. This is why we also see people who are suffering from immobility, spinal cord injuries, people who really can't move, getting more kidney stones because their bones aren't moving. One of the best ways to keep your bones strong is to work them out. But one of the worst things you can do for your bones is soda. Other things within soda, so sugar, all the chemicals, there's no doubt a link between processed foods and the American diet and kidney stones. Soda also is one easy way to become overweight and obese. That's linked to kidney stones. And then you actually end up dehydrating yourself. So although you quote pee a lot, you push more fluid out of your body, and then later you don't have enough urine left behind because you've dehydrated. So it gets a lot of it out in a short period of time, but then you're dehydrated. And so for all those factors, Coke is a no-go for kidney stones.
Okay, I've got another one, and this one is much better. Unsweet iced tea.
All right.
Unsweet.
Unsweet iced tea. So we'll go maybe with this one. Okay.
Okay, got a maybe.
Caffeine can dehydrate you. Okay. So if you're drinking anything with caffeine, that's going to again create an eventual environment of not enough fluid. Okay. Tea does contain some degree of oxalate. Oxalate is a mineral found in foods. And if we remember from our last episode, it's that most common dancing partner to calcium stones. But at least it doesn't have sugar. So I'll say not great, but if I had to pick between some of these, I'll go an okay substitute, but I'm not crazy about it.
Okay, how about this one? This is my dad's favorite beverage of all time. Sparkling water, the Perrier, the Spindrift, sparkling water.
So it still
carbonated water.
So again, we'll go maybe to no.
Dad.
I'll take it over some other things because at least it's just carbonation. But again, acid. So it's breaking down bone to a degree. Now, 1 or 2 a day, sure. But if like it's all sparkling water, I'm not so crazy about that. And also fully understand everything I'm telling you, folks, is my bias experience of a practicing urologist for 16 years. We don't have great data on this. You know, any study related to what we eat or drink is just fraught with too many confounding factors, because how do you control for it? Like, how do you take 1,000 people and split them up to carbonated versus non-carbonated water and ensure they all drink the same amount and eat the same things? It's impossible. But just from understanding the physiology, I'll take it, but I'd much rather it's still water.
Okay, I'm going to turn the tables on you, and I want to ask you a question. So what's the worst? What's the worst beverage we can be drinking? If it's not water, what's the worst of the worst? Beyond soda.
I'd say soda's it.
Soda's it. What about beer?
So alcohol.
Alcohol.
Yeah. So again, there's this old, talk about DIY and myths. Like I've had urologists tell patients, I've heard this, oh, you got a kidney stone, go drink a beer and push it out. Like, theoretically,
okay.
Do you urinate more when you drink some beer? Yes. Do we have any data, or should we really be pushing guys to drink a large amount of beer as a medical, remedy?
Seems like a no.
Probably not.
Okay.
So no, I think, listen, beer's not great. Coffee, because it's got oxalate acid and the caffeine is not great. So, let's give people some hope, because some people are like, dear God, doc, like I hate water. Give me something. So here's something. I think some of the flavored waters are all right, as long as they're not loaded with a bunch of sugar. And actually there's some data and some science to back the idea of fresh lemonade. Now, again, I'd much rather you put some of the artificial sweeteners in than the real stuff. But lemons have something called citrate. I referenced that earlier. Citrate is one of the things our body produces that can prevent kidney stones. And so now probably the stuff you get from the carton, that's the 10% juice of the lemonade. Eh,
plastic bottle.
yeah,
No.
probably not great. But if you want to make some fresh lemonade or just squeeze some fresh lemon in your water, add a little Splenda, something like that, I think that's a great option for folks. I think another one maybe is sort of some of the 0 calorie energy, not the carbonated, caffeinated energy drinks, but like a Gatorade or a Powerade,
The
especially if
no
you dilute that
sugar.
out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't want people to think like, God, you can only drink water, but if you had to pick the one thing that you can control, it's that. And if you had to, if I had to pick between someone who's not going to drink anything or drinks something that's non-water, I'd much rather it's, again, some sort of flavored water. But when you start adding lots of chemicals, bubbles, caffeine, sugar, acid, that's where they start, combating the good benefits of all that fluid.
Okay. So water obviously is the thing. What about diet? Let's talk about food.
So there are, as we've talked about in previous episodes, lots of different religions when it comes to diets. So I want to again focus on their role with kidney stones. So we have to remember that the minerals that our body is filtering, whether it be our intestinal tract or our kidneys, also comes from the food we eat. And so an old myth is that calcium, for instance, leads to kidney stones. There's actually very little link and direct correlation between calcium intake and kidney stones. If anything, it's inversely related. In other words, if you don't eat enough calcium, you can paradoxically get more calcium kidney stones. Why is that? Well, oxalate, which has to bind with calcium in the kidneys to form stones, is 100% from our diet. And the foods that are high in oxalate include spinach, nuts, rhubarb, last I checked, some odd things. Potatoes have enough. So if you're eating like a lot of potato chips, things that you can eat a lot in bulk can have some oxalate. And so if you have a high oxalate diet, but you don't have enough calcium, then that oxalate will get absorbed through our intestinal tract and go to the kidneys. Whereas actually, if you have that oxalate food with some calcium containing foods, they bind in the stomach, and then the intestinal tract will get rid of that new salt or crystal that just formed. So it's one of those kind of tricks I teach people, that if you are on a high oxalate diet, so who would that be? Vegans. Actually,
Vegans.
I had this
Okay.
sweet woman in my practice years ago, and I was doing a good dietary history. I said, "Well, what do you eat every day?" She said, "Well, a spinach salad with almonds." And I was like, "Oh boy, I'm probably not going to get you to stop that. You already have this, diet that is somewhat restrictive." So I said, "Listen, I want you, when you have that salad, to throw in some cheese, to have some yogurt, to have a glass of milk or almond milk, something with some calcium, or even take like a Tums, a calcium chewable, at the same time. So then all that oxalate from the spinach and the nuts will again come together in the stomach and never be able to get absorbed. So
Mm.
oxalate, when it binds calcium, can't leave the intestinal tract. So those are some general sort of minerals and dietary things. But in general, we want a well-balanced diet. And it's funny, you're like, I already know this. And so it's amazing how simple foundational principles just keep reoccurring in wellness and healthcare. And this is one of them, because not only is the vegan diet going to put you more prone to stones from all the green leafy vegetables and the nuts and things that you eat, on the flip side, a carnivore diet is going to potentially put you at a higher risk for a uric acid stone. So uric acid is the same crystal that forms gout. And so gout is typically a painful arthritis that can form in the knees or the big toes, classically from eating too much meat. But those uric acid crystals can also deposit in the kidneys and lead to stones. So, like everything in life, it's all about moderation. It's all about balance. So I don't want people listening thinking like, I can't ever have meat again. I can't ever have spinach. No, it's just balance. Have a cup of spinach a couple times a week and then substitute out some other greens. Yes, you can eat meat. I think protein's important, but don't just eat meat 3 meals a day in high quantities and don't have other things or drink enough water. So those are some basic dietary things that I think people need to be aware of that can help prevent stones.
I have a question. Generally, always a negative, processed foods. Does this play a role in kidney stones, or is it's just generally processed foods aren't good? Does that have any correlation to a kidney stone?
It absolutely does. And we're not sure what the factors are definitively. Process some of the things that may play a role. Processed foods tend to be high in sodium.
Mm.
And so a high salt diet, salt can cause more calcium to leak out of the kidneys. Again, it's all about these balances with trading off a positive ion with a negative one, and some stuff travels together throughout the kidneys. The kidneys are these very cool, complex organs that have these specific little gateways or portals for different things. And when we push more salt through, it drags more calcium. So diets very high in processed food tend to be loaded with sodium. So a lot of times when we're doing our urine analyses and evaluating people for kidney stone prevention, we'll see their sodium through the roof, their calcium's through the roof. And I don't have to tell them not to eat calcium. I actually have to tell them to go on a low salt diet. So that plays a role. And then there's no doubt that processed foods, obesity lead to generalized inflammation in the body and lead to overall dysfunction throughout our entire system. And so there's absolutely a link between obesity, processed foods, and kidney stones. It's probably more complex than we know. It's not just the salt equation, but again, when in doubt, eating whole foods in a balanced fashion is always the way to go, and that includes with kidney stones.
Okay, so there's one thing I've started hearing and on the radio. Yeah, I still listen to the radio. I'm 400 years old. And some television commercials about some supplements that are being passed around that say they will help prevent kidney stones. Are these good supplements? I also heard something wild about, what was it, apple cider vinegar? Something taking apple cider vinegar would help dissolve kidney stones. Is there any truth to any of this?
So yes and no.
Okay.
So when it comes to over-the-counter supplements, there are absolutely some things that could potentially prevent kidney stones. Now, as a caveat, I'm very big into natural ways of healing our body. I think food should be our first medicine. There's no doubt that there are some key supplements that can play a role. I would caution against just listening to claims on commercials and non-medical professionals just selling this stuff and hawking it, saying, oh, just take this, you'll never have a kidney stone. I'm much more a believer in a targeted approach. So that's why I love doing these 24-hour urine tests. And I think it's so important that patients come in to see their friendly neighborhood urologist for an evaluation, because maybe that citrate supplement, which you can buy over the counter and can help prevent kidney stones legitimately, isn't your issue. That you could take all the citrate in the world, but your citrate levels are fine, and you actually have too much calcium in your urine due to some factor you had no idea about. Right. Or you're taking way too many vitamin D supplements, which can raise calcium levels, and that could lead to it. Or you're chewing on too many Tums because you get terrible heartburn from eating too much late at night, and that's leading to your kidney stone. So I'm not really a big believer in just taking supplements without knowing your levels, and this is one of those cases. Now, one thing that we know with pretty much certain with pretty good certainty is that the likelihood you're going to take something that dissolves stones is close to zero. Okay. Again, if we go back to our physiology and why these things are forming, most stones are calcium stones. You're really not going to dissolve a calcium stone. Although the calcium from our bones can be broken down by soda, it doesn't work the other way. Once that little rock forms in the kidney and it's made of calcium, it ain't going anywhere unless you pass it or we get it out. Only about the 10% of stones that are uric acid could potentially be dissolved by going opposite of acid and what's called alkalinizing the urine. So acid is a low pH, raise the pH. But again, you won't know that unless you have a detailed study. So no, apple cider vinegar is not going to dissolve your kidney stones. And know that supplement you got from, I've seen them from Mexico and Europe and the Middle East. I always get some guy bringing some bottle with some language I don't know and go, my doctor there said this dissolves stones. It doesn't. I mean, trust me, if I had something that dissolved kidney stones, I'd love to not wake up at 2 a.m. and have to deal with urgent kidney stones. I'd be putting everybody on them, and be happy to not have to do those surgeries. They're miserable for people. But no, we're not going to be dissolving stones anytime soon. And yes, there are some over-the-counter things that work. But again, you got to question, what is the quality and do you need it? What are your levels and does that even pertain to you?
Okay. I think this was some great information about kidney stones and what we can do personally to keep them from happening. So let's boil it all down in my favorite part of the show, just the tip. So number one, our takeaways today. Number one, water, water, and water. I'll say it one more time, water. Number two, although certain foods can lead to kidney stones, the most important thing is eating a well-balanced diet of whole foods and avoiding processed foods. And number three, kidney stones are rarely dissolvable, and over-the-counter supplements and diet hacks don't really work and may not be for everyone. Did I get it?
Yep, absolutely. That's a great summary, Kat, of kidney stones. And Stream Team, we're big believers in natural ways of preventing diseases. If I never had to do surgery again or prescribe a medication, I think that would be a huge win for healthcare and fantastic. But these are the sort of things that you really shouldn't be doing on your own. We went through a lot of training and schooling to really sort that out. And listen, there's no doubt a lot of my colleagues who, have a trigger finger that's very happy to cut on people and do things. That's not our approach at Pazona MD. We're really about a holistic partnership with patients. And so if you're interested in natural means of preventing your kidney stones, awesome. Give us a call. We would love to work with you. You are our ideal patient to come in and work with us, but it's got to be based on some data. It's got to be based on some science, and we want you to get high quality stuff. There's a lot of people making a lot of money out there hawking all this garbage and powder that just leads to expensive urine but doesn't help you. So please put down the Mountain Dews and the sweet teas, pick up a little bit more water. But
cake is okay in small quantities.
Fair enough. I don't have a big problem with the cake, and it was
thank goodness it was good.
It was delicious. So with that, Stream Team, please leave your comments, subscribe on your favorite channel. We love being here for you, and please remember that we are all works in progress. Show yourself a little bit more kindness. And all of these are opportunities to grow stronger. So thanks and have a great day. Take care.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Balls Deep. If you'd like to join our Stream Team of listeners, please click the subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform. For more information about our practice, Pazona MD, please visit pazonamd.com. This podcast is for informational purposes only, and the content is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice. The show does not constitute the practice of medicine. No doctor-patient relationship is formed through this podcast or any of the social media channels related to this show. The use of this information is at the user's own risk. Users should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice from any medical condition they have, and they should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such conditions.